Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're back working on this, the Dirt Master from Kyosho. That's just dropped. Now, I've done two videos on this one. I did an unboxing video and I did a chassis build video. So if you haven't seen those, I'll put a link up here. Go check them out. In this episode, we're going to paint up the body, fit all the electronics, take it for a bit of a spin, and then we're going to compare it to the Genova. So if you'd like to see that, stay tuned. Hit it, Charlie. So the paint job, well, it's kind of box art with a twist. Now, I did plan on doing something a little bit different. I actually managed to pick up some flame masks and I put them on the black section, and yeah, they didn't work out at all. I completely stuffed up one side and I had no choice but to take them off and then blow it in. But I made it even harder for myself, as the problem was I actually put Pearl down first, then put the PS5 flat black on. But if you cut out any kind of issues, yeah, the Pearl will show. So what I tried to do, I put the black back on, then realised what I'd done. So then I had to take that off again and then Pearl it, then put the black back on. But the Pearl doesn't line up perfectly. You get a mark. You get like a halo mark in the paint. So if you're not sure if you're going to be able to pull it off, don't put Pearl down, because you can back the black again and you'll get away with it. But as soon as you put the Pearl in, it shows up. You can't cut it out, replace bits or anything like that. So that means I had to use these white stickers on top of the shoulders, which I didn't plan on using. So that kind of limited me a little bit. Such a shame, but you can't win them all, and that's the key that you can probably take away. I am no professional painter, but sometimes things go wrong. You've just got to slow down a little bit, try and work through it, and then see if you can come out the other end. And I'm quite happy with it. It's not exactly what I wanted, but I managed to save it, and obviously getting another body would be a bit difficult at the moment. So overall, I'm reasonably happy with it. One thing that I really did like, and I'll do further on, that worked really well, is my surround the windows. What I did was I fitted the window mask, painted it, took the window mask out again, cut round them with a ruler, and then put them back in again. And that gave me that really nice kind of edging that I like. And I like to get it precise. So taking it out, cutting it with a ruler and putting it back in again was easier than trying to cut it out with them in situ. And most decals will come off and go back in again for the window masks. So I recommend giving that a go next time, as that definitely lifted it. Also, the lines across the top are all nice and sharp. So overall, when you look at it, I'm reasonably happy with it close up. The only thing I don't like is this rear spoiler. Painting it wasn't as much of a problem. Getting into the sides, you can actually flex them. So getting the paint in was really easy. But the spoiler is too soft, so yes, it makes it easier to spray into the tight bits, but it's really super flimsy, so I'm not too keen on that at all. Also, for me personally, it's too low, and I've got it on the higher setting. It needs to be much higher. It's basically on the level, and it kind of dives into the car, which I'm not overly sold on. As for the electronics, I did have a Kyosho 15.5 turn 240S brushless motor and ESC. These came out of my Cougar from racing, so I had them sitting around, so I thought, hey, I'll put them in this. It's perfect to go in here. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why don't I put them in my mid? And honestly, I don't think they're quite powerful enough. The mid is quite a heavy car, and being four-wheel drive, it's carrying a lot more weight. I would rather go for, if you're thinking about getting a Kyosho motor and they're not cheap, go for the 13.5 turn if you're going four-wheel drive. If you're putting it in a two-wheel drive, then the 15.5 is fine. One issue when building the chassis was the steering. Now, if you haven't seen the other video, go for that. I did have an issue with the steering rubbing. Well, it turns out I put the arm upside down, so I had to dig into it. I realized that the actual steering bar was off on an angle. So yeah, I had to dig into the front of it and sort that out. Basically, all I did was take it off the arm, turn it up and put it back in again. So I just put it in upside down, but it means I had to dig into the front of the car. But I'm glad I got that sorted and I didn't actually modify anything, and there should be plenty of space in the front. So keep an eye out when you build yours that you don't make the same silly mistake that I did. So the car's pretty much finished now. I did put a half-height servo in it on closer inspection, but you may actually get away with a full servo in the Dirt Master. The actual space you have available, you might be able to squeeze one in. Also, there's some spacers that come with this, so you can actually push the servo forward in this direction by another mil, I guess. So you might do, but definitely want to check first. So let's take it out, drive it on the grass, and then take it on the road. After that, we'll come back and compare it against the Genova. Just before we dive into this beautiful RC, if I could just ask you to take 2 seconds, if you've watched the videos and you've watched a few and you enjoy it, to hit that subscribe button. 58.6% of you that watch the channel aren't even subscribed. It costs you absolutely nothing. And being that we're such a small RC channel, every new subscriber really helps the algorithm find our content and push it out to more RC fans like you. So let's see what this can do. Now I've done a basic setup, I've set the endpoints, and I've done the camber very basically. And let's take it for a drive. Now the Kyosho motors are super expensive, but one thing they've definitely got going for them is they're super smooth. Really silky smooth, beautiful acceleration. Also, they seem to be very efficient. Every time I drive with a Kyosho brushless motor, my battery seems to last for ages. Anyway, well, I have to say I am super impressed. Even though I haven't done much setup at all, this buggy is beautiful to drive. I do like the turn-in circle. At the moment, the back slides, but it's very predictable. So I must admit, I'm quite surprised how good it is to drive. Now what I'll do is I'll glue up the tyres and I will take it round the track. What I'll do is I'll take it with me next time I go racing, and then I'll set a few laps with it. I might have to put a bigger pinion in it as this motor's not the super fastest, but I'd be surprised. It'd be interesting to see how it gets on. It could definitely do with a slightly better quality servo, but driving it around in the garden and driving it around on the street, you don't really notice it. But round a track, you'll definitely need something that's a little bit sharper and a little bit more high fidelity. So can I recommend this one? Yes, I definitely can, especially at that price point. If you're thinking about just getting a buggy to drive around the garden, but you're tempted to go to a track, this might be the way to go. The only concern would be whether they will let you run this in a vintage race, but being that it's based on a vintage racing buggy, I don't see why not. So let's do a direct comparison against the Genova and the Dirt Master. Which one would I actually recommend? So I've broken it down. The first thing we're going to cover is the plastic quality. And out of the two, I would say the Genova is slightly better plastics in the kit. Now obviously if you go and spend the extra and get the carbon composites will lift up the chassis, but that's a lot more extra money and you've got to hunt around to get all those parts, so I can't really put that in there. So out of the two, I would say the Genova plastics are better quality. Fit and finish is the next one, and that's a bit of a split, but leaning mainly towards the Genova. The parts go together fractionally better. There is a few parts on the actual Dirt Master that don't really line up exactly. They don't give you trouble when you build it. They still, all the holes line up, but there's just a few bits that don't butt up quite as nicely as the Genova. But the Allen bolts that you get in the Dirt Master are a definite improvement over the JIS screws that you get in the Genova. Now obviously you can upgrade the hardware on the Genova as well, but you can't really count on that because it wasn't in the box. Looks, now this is obviously going to be down to personal choice, but for me the Genova is a better looking buggy. It's to do with the rear wing. I think you can improve the looks of the Dirt Master, but the actual body and how it flows, and because it's got the extra long wheelbase, it does feel very long and sleek. So I personally prefer the Genova over the Dirt Master. Price-wise, well, I have to take my hat off to Kyosho to actually get it in the UK to your door, and you're looking at £200 is brilliant. Now, it must have been very difficult for Kyosho to get it down to that price point, but there is a few bits, the telltale signs, like some plastic screws, which obviously I've replaced with metal ones, but I don't think they sacrificed too much to get that price point. So yes, it is a bit of a bargain if you ask me. Now, the Genova in Japan is obviously less than that, but being that it's only sold in Japan, then we've got to add on all the import and then the extra shipping because it's coming out of Japan, which makes it more expensive. So on a price point, definitely goes to the Dirt Master. Now, a big one for most people that are purchasing these, if they're going to be running them, is parts availability, especially if you're going to take these racing. But both of them score pretty poorly. Kyosho is renowned for being difficult to get replacement parts, but Genova, being that it was only in Japan, it's even harder. So you're going to have to import every single thing. To this day, I have no idea why G-Force have not released this around the world, as I think it's a home run. So between the two, Kyosho are going to take it. Parts are going to be easier to find from Kyosho, I can't believe I'm saying that, than they are from the Genova. Now, if you're going to take them racing, which would I recommend? But they are very close. Now, obviously, the Dirt Master was originally a racing buggy, so really it comes down to, depends what you're going to race in. If I was going to race indoor carpet and I was going to race on a smallish circuit, I would go for the Dirt Master because of the shorter wheelbase. If I was going to run outside on bigger tracks and grass and things like that, I probably would go for the Genova. But we're picking hairs, they are very close. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to your own skill. And the last one is the upgradability aspect of it. The Genova has got some parts out. You can get some aluminium parts and you can improve bits and pieces of it. But again, you're going to have to import them from Japan. Now, you can get upgrade parts for the Dirt Master. You can get ball diff, and there's a few other bits and pieces that you can get, obviously, from the RB5. Now, I'm sure Kyosho is going to bring out a few other new parts to upgrade it. So at the moment, I would say it's probably about 50-50, as you do have the RB5 parts that are left over from the previous release. So I wouldn't say any of them are brilliant, it's just whichever works best for you. So there you go, I hope you enjoyed that. Comment below, let me know, do you agree, do you disagree? Which one would you prefer? If you were going to take them racing or you're just going to run them in the garden? Thanks very much, see you on the next one, bye bye.